I want to talk to you first about the intersection between the education sector and the population problem, the immigration problem we have in this country and the housing crisis. There's a lot of talk about, you know, the universities, of course, want as many overseas students as possible. That's their business. But we don't have housing and accommodation for all these students. How do we fix this problem?
Well, Chris, good afternoon. Terrific to join you. We know that we have an absolute immigration mess under this government. Labor's Big Australia policy is just causing chaos, particularly in Melbourne and Sydney with such an acute housing shortage. And at the moment, of course, under Labor, we've seen a doubling of the number of international students in Australia. That is absolutely alarming. There are now 713 students here from overseas studying, and they are about 400,000 of them, because of the numbers coming into this country, are being forced onto the private rental market, and the government has done absolutely nothing to hold the universities to account, to demand better standards, to say you need to provide more accommodation. It's a complete mess, and it's happening all on Anthony Albanese watch, and of course the Education Minister Jason Clare. So
713,000 students. Now, we know a lot of them are perhaps have an eye to permanent residency in the long run anyway, but are you saying that the real onus here shouldn't be about more rental accommodation available in the private sector, but the universities having, you know, cheap dormitories and student accommodation on campus?
Look, the universities have a really important responsibility. If they are going to sell the golden ticket to Australia for an international education, then with that comes responsibility, Chris. And frankly, I think the universities, particularly the big unis, Melbourne and Sydney, there are 32,000 international students at Sydney University. Last year, Sydney Uni reaped in $1.4 billion in revenue, and yet they're providing only a few thousand places for these people to, these students to live. It's just not good enough. And now, of course, we see the government panicking. They're now smashing the international student visas. We're seeing the market crash. It is absolute chaos, and it's all happening under Anthony Albanese and his absolute incapacity to manage our migration settings.
Yeah, the migration situation is a mess at the moment. We'll keep following that up. I just want to get you on Julian Assange while you're there, Sarah. Let's first have a look at Joe Biden. US President Joe Biden has said that he's considering some sort of an arrangement where the US might drop its charges or its claims against Assange so he could be returned to Australia. Here's the President.
Do you have a response to Australia's request that you end Julian Assange's prosecution?
We're considering it.
Yeah, he's considering it. And here's what Anthony Albanese's had to say.
It is time that this was brought to a close. Enough is enough. There's nothing to be served by the ongoing incarceration of Mr Assange, and we want Mr Assange to be able to return home.
Yeah, I'm no great apologist for Assange, but he has effectively been holed up or in custody for so long, Sarah Henderson. Is it time for this sort of a deal to be struck for him to be brought home to Australia, possibly in custody for a short period, but released, then released?
Well, Chris, I think most Australians have the view that this has gone on for far too long and that we do need to see an end to the matter. We, of course, respect the United States legal system, but as I say, I think certainly Julian Assange's supporters and many Australians would welcome an end to this matter.
Yeah, so if the federal government can broker some sort of a deal with the US, the coalition is likely to support that?
Well, at the end of the day, it's not a matter for the coalition or even the Australian government. It is a matter for the United States. And as I say, I think most Australians would welcome an end to this very sorry saga.
I think you're right, Sarah Henderson. Thanks so much for joining us.